devotionals. I do positive affirmations. I just try to get my mind set in on a positive wave to start my day. And then usually I get to the office or start work early so I can get things done that I have to get done without any interruption because interruptions drive me crazy. That's one of my, because usually I'll make a mistake or I won't get it done. And then I set goals for the day, and you're not always going to reach those goals. You're not always going to make it all happen because we know things happen throughout the day that, just blows everything up. But then I try to do it again the next day. And then on the way home, one of the things I do too now, I have a smartwatch and it has a breathe little thing on there where it'll beep me and it says breathe. And so for about a minute, I'll just stop and breathe, and it just kind of helps me calm down a little bit. And then on the weekends, I truly try to turn off all social media for the weekend and not watch the news and not talk about politics, but be very aware of what's going on in my life, being there for my grandchildren, being there for my family, being there for them, not thinking about work, not thinking about things I have to get done. Go get a pedicure, go get a mani-pedi, whatever. Spend some time for yourself, but relax and just let it go for just a little while if you can. And that's generally the way I handle it.
Yeah. And Nathalie, when we spoke, I believe it was you who made mention of this. Explain the concept of the power of no in your life.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is a word that I have been introduced to over the years. And I think that the word no has such a negative connotation to it. And I think especially in the workplace, there's this idea about grit and grinding through it and having that hustle that you as an employee, you want to strive to be the best. And in order to be the best, the way that we define that is like taking on every task we can, really trying to prove, that you can do it all. And in that, though, it can be really overwhelming. And sometimes, your actual best value add can get convoluted in taking on all these other tasks that maybe aren't aligned with what your goals are. And so one thing that I have found, and especially over, the past year with COVID, as, we're all trying to navigate through this time, is the importance of setting boundaries in your personal life and in your professional life, and taking time for you, because especially in a remote setting, it's really easy to want to have the intention of blocking something out, and then you end up, having that time being taken away by wanting to help somebody else with problems that other people are going through, or questions that, maybe don't have that urgency that you think it has, but you want to answer it right away. So, what I've found is really empowering the no again, and understanding that no is going to create space for you to be able to make the decision that you need around that task. All that's doing is giving you an opportunity to think. We're very emotional beings. And, I heard a quote, it was from a podcast from Brene Brown that said, we are like majority emotional beings who occasionally think. And so all that no is doing is just giving you that opportunity to think through it, give it the intention that it needs. Sharon, I love what you said about, being present with those interactions. And I think being able to set the boundary, having confidence in setting that boundary, only allows you to have a better conversation when the time is appropriate and when you're able to give it the attention that it needs. And so I've been trying to empower the word no and have confidence in that. And I will say that the receptiveness, both from personal relationships and professional, has been really overwhelmingly positive.
I would say as a business leader too, everybody always talks about how everything starts at the top, right? So if you're a business leader who never says no to anything, if you take every single phone call, if you are letting every single person walk into your office and take that time and you are setting an example that is how you want your company and how you expect your managers to react, how you expect your employees to be. So I think by hosting those types of conversations with people and saying, no, we're staying focused here, or no, we schedule this to do this, I think it does set a precedence as a leader to your people that they have that capability of saying that themselves and being able to reflect that idea of saying, no, we're not going to do that, or no, this is not good for us, or no, we should be on track here. So again, I know that business leaders, for me, I've always felt like someone walks into my office, I want to run an open door company. Like, that is who I am. Like, talk to me whenever you want. But at the same time, I was like, what messaging is that saying when I send that email at 2:00 in the morning, or I, try to send something on a Saturday or a Sunday? It's not letting my people even have the opportunity to say no, to like having to read that. And therefore it just it's this trickle effect. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that. Like, say if you've worked for someone who's done something like that, does that make you feel like you have to be responsive and not have that time for yourself?
Yeah, I used to have a COO that Sunday was his day, and you better. And he would call conference calls on a Sunday afternoon with all of the managers, and you never knew if you were going to be in the box that Sunday, that you were going to be the one that was in trouble, or and so it just gave you anxiety. You hated Sundays because you had to be on that call. And you never knew if it was going to be you that was going to be the one getting embarrassed in front of your peers. And so so I was spending Saturday preparing for Sunday just to make sure I didn't have anything out there that I wasn't aware of that would surprise me. And when he left the company, there was such a huge change in attitudes of the management, because everybody felt the same way. We didn't talk about it, but we all felt the same way. And it just made for a more relaxed environment in the company. And we actually did better jobs because we didn't have to deal with that on the weekends. We could actually have a life again.
Right.
He called me one night to yell at me about something. It was Valentine's night. And I just said, shouldn't you be out to dinner with your wife? And he just kind of stopped. I think I kind of surprised him. And he said, okay, we'll talk about this tomorrow. But, you just, that's just not a good way to lead, because you are actually being a mentor to all the people that work for you. Mm-hmm. And you want to be one of those leaders that people want to be like, mm-hmm. not be talked about like I just did.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. I agree with that completely. I think that, having that relationship with your leaders and having them set the example of what healthy boundaries look like, especially I would say in the supply chain industry, where supply chain is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, feeling comfortable turning your messenger off from green to do not disturb because it's Tuesday night and you have, plans, or maybe you want to get in a workout for yourself and you want to be unavailable and intentional with that time. It's helpful when leadership is sharing those similar stories. And where I've been the most inspired and had the most respect is, working with companies where my manager or, my director is sharing, what they did for themselves this week, or being vulnerable in, maybe something that they've struggled with, during a hectic week, and that they maybe needed to take a day off, because you can be committed and take a day off. Sure. You can be a good leader and delegate. And I think that society sometimes makes it seem like you can't. You have to be that 24-hour person in order to find success. And that's really not true. Your mind leads everything else that you do. So that has to be the priority. And I think that exactly what, leaders like yourself, Sharon, and leaders like you, Nicole, being able to speak to this, it's going to allow for those around you and those working with you to know that you would be a trusted individual to come to. Mm-hmm. And that's really important.
Yeah. And one of the conversations when we were just chatting as a group, the three of us before, Nathalie, you spoke a lot about this Brene Brown. I don't know if it was a podcast that you had listened to, something that had really kind of ignited you on this topic. So if there's some things in there that you would love to share with the group that have really been impactful to you, we would love to hear about those.
Yeah, I mean, I am a Brene Brown fangirl. I honestly only discovered her this past year when, it became really evident that I needed to take hold of my, productivity and my routine for my mental health. And I started with her Dare to Lead book. And she has a podcast that it was Unlocking Us, and now it's Dare to Lead, and it's available on Spotify. But she basically has interviews with different leaders across, the space and experts, just talking about different topics. And one of them I had listened to was with the old former CEO of Campbell's, Doug Conant, I want to say. And he was talking about his leadership story and about vulnerability. And, if you really want to change the culture of your company for the better, it starts with being vulnerable and genuine with your relationships with your employees, and making sure that they have accessibility at some level to resources to help them feel supported. And, there was another podcast that I listened today as well that talked a lot about women and getting through the complete stress life cycle. And sometimes, especially right now with COVID, a lot of that laden workload and that lion's share of managing working remote and managing your kids or managing all of those at-home responsibilities have fallen on women. And then you add the backdrop of compassion fatigue of, COVID and wondering if your friends are okay and your family is okay. This podcast really highlights resources for women to be able to leverage to get through those stressful moments, and just acknowledging that.
Oh, I think we lost Nathalie a little bit on her internet connection here. I'm sure she'll bounce back in a second. So, I mean, Sharon, she might just bounce right back in here. But in regards to some of the things, I mean, hopefully I can send her a message really quick. But here she comes back. I'm sorry. Nathalie, we lost you for just a second with the internet.
I think my internet was telling me no and needed some boundaries there.
Needed to take a mental health break.
Yeah, taking a mental health break. I respect it, just breathe. But no, I was just saying, the topics spanned across all spectrums of mental health and leadership insight. And so that's just been one resource that I've really taken advantage of. And what I like about her podcast is she is leveraging networks from all aspects that really cater to needs and that can align with anybody, male, female, minority, and what the aspects of the stages that you're in your professional and personal life. So I highly recommend that. And there is also a podcast called
You said Dare to Lead. I'm sorry, Nathalie. I just want to make sure that I get that so we can share that in the comments. So if people want to check that out, Dare to Lead.
Dare to Lead, and it's available on Spotify. And then if for those who are interested in learning more about the power of no, there is a podcast called Live Inspired by Vanessa Seymour. And she actually does a series on the power of no. And she also has a Facebook group called Ready to Rise. And it's for people who, are looking for, wellness advice and support and resources around mental health. So
I'm jotting all this down so I can hop on those and share those with the group. So Ready to Rise on Facebook. Awesome. Yeah, I will put those in the comments. So whoever wants to take a look at some of those resources could do that. I know you, like I said, you got so animated when you started talking about this on the chat that we had. I'm like, you have to share this so that people can take a listen to those types of things. And I'm going to bring this back and just ask one more quick thing before we wrap. I know it goes so fast when we're chatting, but Sharon, you had talked about focusing on your wins when we had talked about, what types of tips could people do to really help themselves focus on, their mental health?
Well, one thing I want to urge people to do is to get help. Talk to a friend. Make sure you have someone you can talk to. And I know there's so many people that are alone right now if they're working remotely. I know I'm single. There's just nobody around me unless my family is around or whatever. And I think there are a lot of women that are like that, men too. And I think you need to talk to your doctor. I mean, there's no, it's not a negative thing to ask for help. Sometimes it's just a good idea to get somebody else's opinion on what's going on, and it'll make you feel better. Talk to someone at your church. They have counselors there, so it doesn't cost you a lot of money. Talk to your HR department if you have one. See if they can recommend someone that you can talk to. Take a mental health day every once in a while. I mean, that's just to take a break and just breathe and try to think about what's going on in your life. I know I have a little issue with anxiety sometimes. I think I'm having a heart attack. I've had to leave the grocery store before. But now I recognize it. I know what it is. I've been talked through it. And so I can help myself get through it. But if you don't get help and find out how you can deal with some of these issues, you're going to continue to go through it and it's going to get worse. So I just urge people to get help. If it's just talk to your boss or talk to someone you trust, anything that you can, just don't go through it alone.
Yeah.
And I urge you, I mean, you can contact me. I'll be more than happy to talk to anybody if you'd rather talk to a stranger and just get you the help that you need or find someone to help you. So just make sure that since this is Mental Health Awareness Month, that you get that help that you need and don't go through this alone.
Totally agree with that. I think we all have so much stuff just hitting us with, like Nathalie said, like you said, Sharon, just being alone for periods of time or, just not having that normal connection of going into an office and seeing people and having jokes and friendly banter to kind of lift us on those days when it's tough, So it is a good concept to just have a network of people that you can call. I know for my sister, I call her and I'm like, hey, I'm in a crazy mindset right now. Just hear me out, or I'll even call her the next day and go, I was just, on a rampage. And thank you for listening to me. I just needed someone to give that ear. So I agree having that person.
And the other thing, you got to get active. Sometimes you just need to take a walk.
Yeah.
Or be thankful for what you have. Think about the things that you're thankful for. And it's not all negative. Think about the positive things in your life and what you've done and how you've succeeded and where you want to go. Make a plan, make some goals. All those things take your mind off of yourself and put your mind, to make you think about other things that you want to do. And I highly recommend laughing a lot because when you're laughing, you can't be sad. You can't, it's just good for the soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so keep that friend who gives you the belly laugh on speed dial, right?
Yeah.
Laughter is the best medicine. So
it really is. Well, we are already here. We are hosting our next show for LLC on the 23rd of this month, I believe. 23rd already?
It's next Wednesday.
Yeah, it's next week. Next Wednesday at 12 Eastern. And that's actually, I call it the trifecta show because we're going to be talking about motivation, networking, and delegation. So we had all these great topics. They're not full show worthy. So we're like, let's chat on these things. So if anyone has any questions for our panelists, we're going to have the Six Alive on next Wednesday. But if you have any questions or thoughts on any of those things, please, you can email us. You've seen the little ticker at the bottom. That's a way to reach us, or shoot us a line on LinkedIn or Facebook and give us some insight or some thoughts on any of those types of topics. But again, Nathalie, thank you for our first mini-sode of attending. Like I told you, they go so fast. You just want to keep talking about some of these great things. So would love to have you back on for another mini-sode and talk about some great additional things. So thank you for your time, both of you guys, today.
Absolutely. And thank you both and everybody who's a part of the Ladies Leadership Coalition for spearheading this. You know, I cannot tell you enough how important this is for women in the industry. So I will be tuning in next week, and I will come with questions because I am just such a champion for this organization. So thank you. And thank you for being a part of it.
Thank you, guys. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you next week.